Nupur Gadkari, United Nations Women Representative for the UK, TED speaker, and currently Global Marketing Director for a fintech firm, Candex.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, Just Another Lens.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning, Nupur.
Sure.
What were those early years like for you?
I had a lot of love around me. And I think it started with not just my parents, but more so my grandparents. They have played a very, very pivotal role in my life in shaping who I am, my values, my beliefs, and just, I think, my general attitude in life.
During an early part of your life, so you went from the ideal Cinderella world to everything falling apart.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing a bit about that?
Yes. It was in my sort of early teens. It's something that happened that I think at the time I wasn't prepared for at all. So my parents decided to walk their own ways. And I think what I'm trying to share is more from my lens and how it played on me. And the things I think I started to think about, which I don't think I ever did think about at the time. So I'm talking about an age where I was about 15 years old, 15, 16, that sort of age. And this is, finishing a very, very important year in your school year, which is the 10th standard, which sort of defines what you do next and going forward in your life. And I found that this news was extremely hard for me to digest because I think it was less of being told that, look, this is going to happen and certain aspects of your life are likely to change, but it was more the dramatic unfolding of how it happened. Wasn't easy, and it came with its own share of struggles and pain and, dark moments in your life, which you just don't know where they hit you from.
I know you had 2 younger siblings.
Yeah.
Quite a few years younger than you, right?
Yes, 8 and 10. My sister's 8 years younger to me, and my brother's 10 years younger to me.
So that's quite a lot for a 15,
is.
16-year-old. So what was going through your head and how did you handle that?
Lots of things, Sanjeev. My mum and I were very close, and she was almost like my best friend. And I think somewhere that line that, your mother becomes your friend as you grow up started to happen in my life. And that was the moment when I think when this happened, it was a very harsh parting for me. While it wasn't parting technically, but it was not having her around me 24/7. So one of the first things I felt was just that pain of what is a world like without having her around, which was very, very different and painful. The second thing I think that I realized was my dad has been this amazing pillar of lots and lots of things for me as I was growing up. And he has been and still is my hero. And, the pain of, like I said, just being away from mum, trying to be whatever I can in terms of support to my dad and also my grandparents because they were not young.
Trying to be support and trying to fix things? What do you mean?
I mean, as a 16-year-old, I didn't know what I could do to help the situation. So I think one of the focus points for me in my life became my siblings. And at the time, and this has taken a lot of practice to say siblings, but because of the age difference, and I would always hear my mom and dad speak of them as the kids, right? I started calling them the kids. So where are the kids? Are the kids at school? Have the kids eaten? So it just became something I started saying, but I think in effect it started to condition my mind to actually thinking of them as some sort of children that I don't have, but sort of have.
Your
because
kids.
I'm my kids to take care of because I love them. I love them to bits. And they were very, very young. So if I'm 16, I'm talking about my brother who's about 6 and my sister who's 8.
So in practice, how did that translate in your daily routine?
Many, many ways, Sanjeev. Sometimes I had to bunk my college lectures in the morning because if dad was away and, these guys would go to school in the morning, I'd just be there to see them off, because I loved someone standing at the window just waving me a nice goodbye for the day, watching me safely get into the school bus until I reached school. So I just felt like they should have that taste of what it is to be a child, and what it is to have someone just making sure you're okay, and not just like, oh yeah, they've gone and no one's at the window. And I think there was one moment where I think I was coming home from my college. My train was delayed. And I remember just coming, and I saw my brother and my sister waiting by, we had a lift at the time. And my brother was just, swinging his feet as they do, just waiting because there was no one at home. That picture, till today, I'm sorry if I cry, it breaks my heart. Because I'm like, they shouldn't have that. I had so much. They should have someone to talk about their day. So I said, okay, you know what? If the last lecture has to go for a toss, it has to go for a toss. So it meant coming home, making sure I don't miss that train from, I'm sorry, I'm making you cry too. Sorry. So it meant, if it meant missing that lecture, it meant missing that lecture. If it meant, letting go of an important thing or an activity in my college years, it just didn't matter. Because they had become such an important part of my life that I just wanted them to have that childhood that I did,
What was that like in terms of your studies? What did your teachers think? What was that like? Because presumably they don't just let you go and miss lessons.
No, I got blacklisted. So what happens in India, for everyone listening, is if you miss a certain amount of lectures, you get blacklisted, which means you're in trouble.
Just to be clear, this is the first time you've ever publicly talked about it.
I have, yeah. I spoke about it very, very slightly on my TED Talk, but I don't think I had this level of depth of what my day would look like. But yes, so in the hope of protecting my family, I didn't ever talk to anyone, not even my best friend at the time.
Wow. That must have been incredibly tough.
It was.
But again, it comes from, for me as an observer, it comes from an amazing place of love and compassion and empathy.
Yeah.
I'm all about trying to help share stories and insights that help people tune into the happiness and let go of things that I need to let go of.
Yeah.
As I understand it, not only did you take on this role of parenting in terms of being there, but you wanted to ensure that you were there every parents' evening for them as well.
Yeah. So again, in India you have these sports days, and you have parents' days, and you have children's day, and it's meant to be a day where your family comes and cheers you on. And
I think it's the same the world over. It's supposed to be that, if you can.
And it's a day you want to, be that person on stage, but find that one face in the crowd who's clapping the loudest. And for me, it was always my mom and dad. But I just couldn't imagine a moment where my siblings didn't have it. Like, how is that even possible? And I know that, people go through a lot worse. Sometimes people lose their parents very early on. They lose, in fact, a lot of their family very early on, and they have to be, just figuring out ways of how they make it in this world. But I think at the time, all of these moments were becoming such a big mountain for me that I just decided that in whatever way, as a sister, a daughter, a granddaughter, if I can make this moment slightly less painful, it would be worth it. So going for a parents' day, or going for their open day sometimes, if my dad was away and mom wasn't around, obviously.
But through that, you still managed to keep moving and didn't let that set you back on your academics. So How did you manage to do that?
The one thing I think as a child at the time I knew was that if I had to shut all these questions out, what will happen to you, what will happen to the kids, etc., etc., if I had to shut them out, I had to be somebody despite the adversity. I never sat down and opened my heart out to my mum or my dad at the time because I was too angry and I was too, well, let them sort out what's going on because they were hurting too in their own ways. So I felt like I can't be this person adding more. But I would run to my grandparents and they used to be, I don't know what wisdom, patience, and determination they would have, but they just let me be me. So I think if I had to say who are the two people who know me in this world like nobody else does, it has to be them. And they could see it. They could see that I was struggling in my own way, but putting on this front of, no, we can do it. I'm going to do this. And I think somewhere my programming became, you know how they say, don't cry over spilt milk? It just became, milk is spilt. What's next? Because I just didn't stop to cry. I didn't stop to feel. I was just constantly filling in leaks in the bucket. Every time one was fixed, another one would open. Every time that was fixed, another one would open. So I was just running on this treadmill constantly.
But something else came to my mind while you were talking. You have quite a heritage, right? That in terms of your ancestors.
Yes.
On both sides of your
Yes.
parents' family. So
Yeah.
you're very loud and proud about that. So you want to give us a little bit of a story about who that is and where your lineage is?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with my dad's side. So my last name is Gadkari. And a Gad in Marathi means fort.
Okay.
And you would have heard of the great Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. He was a great warrior, the greatest king the world could have ever seen. He was intelligent, and he never believed in showing power just physically. It was a lot of strategy and how you play the mind of your enemy to win. My title is Gadkari, or my family's title, which means fort keeper, someone who takes care of the fort. And so my many, many, many moons ago ancestors were titled a Gadkari. So that, I think that fire in the belly,
It certainly shows through.
it's genetic.
It really is.
It's genetic. It's genetic.
And it's inspirational and it's awesome.
I wish I could show you our heritage family swords and, from the time. From
the claws,
from
yeah?
The
knuckle duster claws, I remember seeing pictures of it. And then on your mum's side, again, you have some...
So mum's side, her side was related to the Queen of Jhansi or Jhansi Ki Rani.
This is the queen that if I'm correct, is the one who strapped her child to her back
And went to war.
To defend
And fight for
her
justice.
kingdom.
And
Fight for justice.
Yes.
That's incredible. And that warrior, I can see it. I'm thinking, world, be careful, beware. Nupur is willing to take on anything for justice. Tell us how the heck you managed to follow your passion and your interests at college and then balance things at home. So what was that like?
To start off with, whenever my dad was in town, let's start with that. He would always encourage me to go do more things that I usually chose not to do.
Okay.
Because I think at some point he could see that I was saying no to a lot of things a growing child should say yes to. Like hanging out with friends or going for a birthday or whatever. So at those times I used to try and maximize my exposure in the extracurricular activities in college. And they could be, intercollegiate, debate competitions, business projects, launching brands, all sorts of activities to just get more of a flavor of what's out there and how can I learn. But the times when I guess he would be away, I just didn't have the heart, even though my grandparents were always like, I'll do it, you don't. I just didn't have the heart to say, yes, okay, you do it. So sometimes a day would look like making sure I take that train back, like I said, making sure I make a quick sandwich, keep a glass of milk for them, and then they get ready because one of them is off to cricket coaching, the other one's off to badminton.
When you say off to,
They
go by
hadn't.
themselves, or you?
No, I would take them. So I couldn't drive at the time, but we would grab a rickshaw, and I would take my little bag of textbooks, project work, and I didn't have a laptop at the time because we had a desktop. So what I would do is make notes and then come back home and then type them out on whatever PowerPoint or whatever project I was working on. But I would take them to the local gymkhana. My brother would go for his cricket coaching. My sister would go and do her badminton. And it used to be a 90-minute slot. And I would get those 90 minutes and I'd catch a, close by, little cafe within the gymkhana, spread all my project work out, and then work out of there, end in time so I could pick them up from their class and bring them back home in time for dinner. So sometimes life looked like that.
I'm not quite sure how the heck to even respond to that.
Yeah.
That really is the life of a parent. And academically, you still had some sort of fire in your belly to achieve.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I think it came more from a place of, I want to prove it to the world that what's happening in my family and what people are pointing fingers at me for is not going to define me. And I remember saying this in my TED talk as well, but it's something I used to do religiously, what we call today as manifesting. At the time, there was no such term. But I used to do this religiously with my brother and my sister before we went to bed. Because if I was being asked these questions, I can only imagine what they were being asked in school.
And your way of dealing with that is every evening with your kids,
Yeah.
your siblings, you'd sit there and make them say these words.
Yeah.
What did that manifestation lead to?
Well, look, it's a lot of, firstly, Bapa's grace and all their hard work and determination for sure, which has made my sister an oral and maxillofacial surgeon today. And my brother is a qualified chartered accountant, a qualified CFA, and he is now working as one of the big four as a consultant.
Wow.